asked you to describe the place where you live and how you feel about it. What would you tell others? What is special about your place? We asked the people of the communities of LLangorse and Bwlch in the Brecon Beacons National Park in Wales what they would like to tell visitors about their area. These and other questions were part of a major academic study that explores the advantages and disadvantages of empowerment and increased local participation in tourism planning via the development of a grounded and co-created place branding initiative. In other words, it is a place-shaping exercise that allows local people, who are often marginalized from the decision-making process, to take responsibility for their territory and share their own narratives and place values. The documentary gives voice to 10 members of a local group, Discover LLangorse and Blwch, who are genuine place ambassadors and are proud to share with us their views, stories, feelings and actions that have been shaping and transforming these small communities into a better place to live and visit. Let's hear what they have to share with us.
I think the most special part about this place is the landscape and the light. It's a really beautiful setting in the mountains. From here we can see across to the central Brecon Beacons mountain range, and just behind us are the absolutely stunning Black Mountains, which are fantastic to explore. That's what makes it really special, but also the friendliness of the village and lots of events going on and just feeling part of a community. I like the fact that you can see the landscape through the ages in just one view. You can see where the glaciers have carved the landscape through glaciation. You can see monuments and left behind by the Iron Age people, Iron Age hill forts and standing stones. I also like the fact that it's rumoured that J.R.R. Tolkien stayed nearby when he was younger and he actually walked around where we are now and looked around and picked out all these locations that helped him write Lord of the Rings. So for example, Sugarloaf behind us looks like a volcano. That's apparently his inspiration for the Lonely Mountain. My special story was being asked by Derek Brockway, who's a weather presenter on BBC Wales. He came to stay with us and he asked me if I'd like to be on his programme, which is called Weatherman Walking. I was a bit nervous about it, but I thought it would really help promote our area if I went on, which is fantastic. But I think my favourite part of it all was the night that it was shown on television. Everyone in the village gathered together in the village pub so we could all watch it together. The landlord put on food, everyone had a nice drink, and then we all watched it together. And every time they recognised somewhere on the screen, or I walked on, or I mentioned someone they knew, big cheers came from the room, and it was just a very special evening. As a mountain guide, I'd really like to take you hill walking. Just behind our village is a small spur called Cefn Moel, which takes you up to a higher peak called LLangorse. I'd probably take you up there if that sort of thing interested you, because the panoramic views up there of the whole of the national park are just phenomenal, and I think it's one of the best places to see the national park from. You can see all the mountains, you can see the far side of the park in the west, and the stunning LLangorse Lake just below it.
I think what's special about this place is the beautiful environment, the welcoming community. It's an ideal place to bring up a family. There's good schools, good facilities for people for recreation, so to my mind it's the nicest place anywhere that one could live. It's mainly to do with the community spirit that exists within the LLangorse area, and also I've got very involved with the local organisations that promote the various activities related in a big way to the national park. I have an example here, the Awesome Walks book, which was set up by the people within the community to promote walking in and around LLangorse Lake and also the Bwlch area. My love for this place? Well, it's I feel a very close association with Wales. In fact, the Brecon Beacons National Park recently won an award this year from a tourism body that it's the best place to live in and enjoy the recreation in Wales, the whole of Wales. So that was a privilege for me to live in this particular area. Well, I'd certainly take you to the lake, and there's walks around the lake, which are all in the Awesome Walks book. I'd take you to the rope centre, which is with all the facilities for horse riding. There's 1 or 2 horse riding facilities in the area where you can have an hour's ride, a half-day ride, and if you're experienced, you can have a full day's ride. Talgarth is a very nice town. Brecon is a very nice town. There's a flour mill in Talgarth which visitors can have a look to see how bread and flour was produced. It's a lovely area and there's so much to do. Everybody's welcome. In fact, if you know www, World Wide Web, we call it www, a warm Welsh welcome. So the 3 W's indicate that people in the area, as well as the stakeholders that have businesses in the area, we in the area the population of the area, generally speaking, it reflects the desire to have people coming into the area and enjoying it.
In the first instance, it does have a lot of family history, and I used to bring my children here and I helped my brother and sister-in-law when they were renovating the house. I love the landscape. I've got lovely memories of walking up the Alt with my children. I've always loved this garden. My father had a lot to do with instituting the first beds in the garden, so there are lots of connections. And in terms of the landscape, I love it because it's rolling and there's always stuff going on within the landscape, and the views down to the lake from here are beautiful. My connection with the landscape is very important because my children spent a lot of time here when they were very young. When my son died, I scattered some of his ashes on the edge of the lake and up on the Alt, so that connects me. I've planted an oak tree for him in the field on the way down to the lake, and every year I plant a tree or a shrub in his memory. So there are lots of lovely connections with it, and also by virtue of my nephews being here and watching them growing up in the landscape and trying to connect them with what I do on a more sustainable level. Sustainability is having sort of more like a circular economy, so you're always putting back anything that you've taken out. You're always replenishing a system. It is about looking after the soil and looking after your soul while you're doing that, and encouraging healthy responses to the environment and respecting the environment, and therefore respecting how you are within the environment and what you feed yourself on. I have a lot of visitors, particularly on sunny days over the weekends and bank holidays. So people who are walking from Bwlch, for instance, coming over the Alt, come here and stop for tea and coffee on their way down to the bird hide. And if they haven't heard of the bird hide, then I will direct them to it. When it's drier around the lake, I have quite a lot of visitors who walk all the way around the lake from the campsite over there and come and see me here. So it's a very lovely circular route, or it can be. There are lots of things going on immediately around here, and lots of different walks and routes for people to take. And we have a campsite here, so if we have people camping, they'll come in for tea and coffee. I get fresh bread from Talgarth. I can provide bread, eggs, veg. It's a little world within itself, but linked more broadly because of the lake and the little lanes and the Alt.
What makes this area special to me is the lake. It's attracted, I suppose historically, it's attracted lots of people to the area over time. And personally for me, my family have been in the area for a long time. I think it's, my son is with me hiring boats, so there's sort of 6 generations of boat hirers. It runs deep in my heart, that's and I love the place, and I don't know, I'd like other people to love it as much as I do. You come down here on some days, and when it's grey and misty, and you think, oh my God, it's dark. It's a moody old place, it is, But you then come down on a bright sunny day, and it just comes alive, and the sparkle in the water, or the blue from the sky reflecting in the water is just fantastic. It's the story that reflects sort of my love of the area is, and I think Kilvert, if I can just read a little bit from Kilvert's diary, he's a diarist from the I think this quote is from 1870. It applies today as much as it did then, I think. From the picnic party in the other boat came distant sounds of loud screaming and laughter, as if a great romp were going on, and as if the girls were being kissed and tickled. A little story which my grandfather told, which appears in Fred Buller, who wrote the Doomsday Book of Mammoth Pike. And my grandfather just told him that during World War I, when man and boat could be hired for 3 and 6 a day, my grandfather remembers gillying for the son of Lord Mayor of London. The son's lady companion had the good fortune to hook and land a 37.5-pound pike. It had been taken on a goldfish on live bait tackle, but she had also had the misfortune to be another man's wife, so that her catch could not be reported or even acknowledged. I just love the history of it all. What I'd like to tell people about this place is that it's a beautiful place, full of myths and legends, with a great eclectic mix of locals that are more than willing to impart their knowledge and love of the area. Come for a row on the lake, walk up our local hills, because the views are spectacular.
One of the things that makes this place special is probably its quite unique geography. So the fact that it's quite high, it's about 270, 280 feet above sea level. It's sandwiched between the Brecon Beacons on one side and the Black Mountains on the other. So what tends to happen is that they get the most of the rain, and here we end up being a little bit drier, a little bit sunnier than everywhere else. And it's got its own microclimate, which I think is pretty special. LLangorse Lake's a lovely place. It's historical. There's historical data going back a couple of millennia on settlements here and things like that. And there are all sorts of myths and legends that abound about it. But I think just it's very much rooted in nature. There's some fantastic scenery. The water itself is very calming, and I think it's just a really nice environment to live and to work. I think it's very difficult to pick one experience that sums up what I feel about this place. I have so many good memories of going for walks and of going down to the lake with the kids, of going boating, and of the farming around the lake as well. I have some lovely memories of just being out in the sunshine and doing something with the sheep. I think LLangorse is a very special place, and if I had to tell other people what I like about it, what they'd enjoy about it, I think a lot of people know about it already. When I say that I live in LLangorse to people, it's amazing how many people say, oh, I used to go there on holiday as a child, or I used to go sailing there. So I think it is quite well known, but it's also quite peaceful, and it's a really pleasant place to spend some time. I think the thing I'd tell people about it is there's just a bit of everything here, I think. It's a beautiful place. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to come and see, especially around the local area, and a lot of people we get staying at our holiday let, for example, they come back year on year just because I think they find it very relaxing, and they always find that there are things to do. If you love nature and the outdoors, if you love history and culture, then this is kind of an ideal place to visit, really.
Well, one of the special things for me is I love to play. I like to go play on my bike, in the canoe, I like trail running, I like hiking. So this is play heaven for me. I mean, it's fantastic. I have the canal, I have the lake, the trails, the roads, fantastic climbs. It's heaven for me. The scenery is very special. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And when we moved here, what we didn't know was how warm and friendly the people would be. And that was a really pleasant surprise. So it's a really nice community to live in. Lovely. We've got involved in lots of things since we've lived here, and that's been great. So things I never thought I would do, like being involved with the village hall and promoting tourism, and so it's been a great thing to do. So we feel very included. It's really nice. Why tourism? Well, I don't know about farming, but we wanted to provide people with a really good experience. So we knew how much we loved the Brecon Beacons, and we want to pass that on to other people visiting the Brecon Beacons to get the same kind of joy that we've had from it. In terms of the place, the story I would tell is actually 2 weeks before we moved into our house, we discovered the Acht, which is the hill just behind us. And we walked to the top of it and realised that this was our back garden. This was our early morning run, our walk, where we could see the sunset, we see the sunrise. And it's just a stunning place to see the Brecon Beacons, to see LLangorse Lake. So just a beautiful place, fantastic views. There's so much history here as well, and for me that's special to know about the industrial heritage. Just down the road there's a ruined castle. There are all the myths and legends of Wales. It's a fabulous place to come and visit, just wonderful. Come here, well, I tell all the visitors that come to visit is go to the top of the Alt. And the Alt is, to my mind, one of the best viewpoints in the Brecon Beacons.
This place is special because it has a big heart, not only the heart of the village and the heart of the immediate surrounding, but it's right in the heart of the national park. My love and care for this place, I think, began well before we moved here. 5 years ago we walked the Beacons Way, which runs from near Abergavenny in the east of the park right over to Bethlehem, Llandalo in the west of the park. And as we walked further and further into the national park and we came into Bwlch, I realised what a special place it was. When we first moved to our house here, you always take a risk. You don't know what your neighbours are going to be like, what the community is going to be like. But within the first few days, we knew we'd made a really good choice. Our neighbours came in to see us and invited us round. We went to the pub and met people there. We were made to feel very welcome. We soon joined up with the local Rural Alliance, and it just seemed that we were able to contribute to what made this place special, and it's something that makes us feel very proud. If you were a tourist coming here to Bwlch, there's so much to choose from. You can have a wonderful walk up we call it our back garden. It's up the Alt, which is a large hill or a small mountain just behind the house, and from there you can have a view of the central beacons. You can see Pennyvan and Cribbin. You can look the other way and see the LLangorse Lake and the Black Mountains. Something that gives me a real joy is the fact that we have a holiday house that we rent out, and people who come to stay, we're able to introduce them to everything that the area has to offer. So often when I'm in the holiday house getting it ready for the guests to come in, I look out at the view and think about them staying here and waking up in the morning and looking out and seeing Torrofoil one way and Pennyvan the other, and the plans that they might have. And when they depart at the end of the week, when they take the time to tell me about what they've done, it really gives me makes me feel very warm and very happy that other people have been here to enjoy that.
LLangorse is a lovely place to live for all sorts of reasons, because of the community, because of the countryside, because of the dark skies, because you can see the stars, because of all the things that you can do, the wildlife, the mountains and the lake. The wildlife are moths, and I've been interested in moths for most of my life. I catch moths in my garden, and one of the reasons I like living here is that it's such a rich biodiversity. I have a list of over 630 different kinds of butterfly and moth in my garden. I catch them too because I'm interested in them. I want to record them so that people in later times know what has been here then. And because I find them interesting and very beautiful as well. A lot of the importance of the area is its long-term history. Langorse Lake, of course, has the Crannog, the royal palace that was burnt down in 916 AD. So we've got a very long history, both ancient history and modern history. So I think that's an important cultural asset. But I'm involved with the LLangorse Lake Advisory Group. I chair that. I'm also involved with the Discover LLangorse and Blwch group, which is a tourism group, and I chair that too. So I think it's very important to be involved with the community life in the village. I'm also the church warden of the LLangorse Church. I think that tourism is important because it's important to support the local economy, the local rural economy. There's a danger that people will not be able to find jobs, find enough money to work here, or move away and we'll have rural depopulation. I think that's a very great danger, one that I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to help build a sustainable economy for the rural society around here, around Langorse. I do want to emphasise the strong community spirit in the Langorse and Bwlch area. We do try to look after each other. We do try to make sure that the community develops strongly. If a visitor were to come to Langorse, I would take them to some of my favourite places. That would include Langorse Mountain, which is up there, LLangorse Lake, which is a short distance in that direction, and I'd also take them to around the little lanes around the village that have got so much wildlife, so many moths, so many plants to look at.
It's just beautiful living here. So for example, just across the fields is my house where I live. So every night I can have a look out here and see the farm shop. In the rutting season, so in October, November, I'm woken up by deer, making all these noises, sounds like Jurassic Park. But it's beautiful. It's just, I'd never hear those noises if I was still living in London, and I'd be a lesser a person for it, really. I think for me, it's the wildlife, the nature. For example, sometimes I'm woken up in the middle of the night by owls hooting, and then having conversations with each other. And it's quite annoying, but it's beautiful, really. So I then go outside and listen to the owls, and then look at the stars if the sky is clear. And it's just, where else would you'd pay a lot of money to experience that. So I'm very, very fortunate. I think that's the special part about my life and living here.
Morning, Carol, how are you?
Good morning, Andrew. With my work, I've been really fortunate to be able to work with a group from LLangorse and Blwch, and I've got to know them quite well, and I've helped them to create better experiences for visitors when they arrive here. So for example, there are some really beautiful walks that we've developed with the group, whereas before there weren't any walks, so when visitors came here they didn't know where to walk. We've done a leaflet which has brought the two villages together, whereas beforehand they were working independently. And then we've done some interpretation and orientation around LLangorse Lake and up here, so that people, when they visit the area, they can find their way around quickly and easier. So by working with the groups the tourism groups from Blwch and LLangorse, I've made new friends and developed deeper relationships with the people here. What would I like to tell others about my place? Well, I'd like to keep it a secret, really, because I found that by telling people where the walks are, there's a lot more people that are actually coming to the walks and finding the walks. So therefore, when I take my dog for a walk now, there's lots of people, whereas before I'd be by myself. So now I've got to discover and explore more areas where we're not going to tell anybody about where they can go. We've told them enough.
When my wife and I moved here in 1986, we were a little apprehensive because we'd visited Wales on holiday at various times, but we'd never lived in Wales. We weren't entirely sure what sort of reception we were going to get. And I was conscious of the fact that I was joining a local authority where most of the councillors would be Welsh. Some of them would be Welsh speakers, although by no means all of them. So I was sort of slightly apprehensive as to what the reaction would be. But I was pleasantly surprised. Everyone seemed incredibly welcoming. We were really made to feel at home. And within a very short space of time, we felt really very much at home here in Wales. We were convinced within a very short space of time that we had made the right decision in moving here. It's a lovely area. My wife and I are both prefer the countryside to the town. My wife and I use a variety of Ordnance Survey maps and guidebooks, and we follow the walking routes that are listed in those guidebooks. Last year, for example, we bought a guidebook which contains about 28 walks in the Forest of Dean and the Wye Valley, and we did many of the walks in that, and they are excellent, well described, interesting walks, and there's a lot of history and archaeology. So if you were a tourist who was interested in walking, then yeah, this would be an ideal place to visit. What would I like to tell others about the place? It does have an interesting history. It's got a very old church, and it was originally, probably, if you go back far enough, bigger than it is now, because part of it was a deserted medieval village. There is a field at the far end of the village which has evidence of house structures dating probably from before the Black Death, which was many hundreds of years ago. There is the Hay on Wye festival, which has come on in leaps and bounds over the past 30 years or so. It was formed just shortly before we moved here, first started. There's a lovely view across the Black Mountains. We're sort of situated sort of midway between the Black Mountains and the central part of the Brecon Beacons National Park.